This is World of Info, and we're coming from Studio 3. My name is Dr. Amr MABROuk. Dua Muhammad is at the control, and today is the world of books in the world of info. Today, we are presenting three very interesting books that I really deserve that you should read them. And the first book is SNAFU, or The History of the Greatest Mess Ups by Ed Helms. And the second book is The Stories and the Tales of the Minarets by Ihab al-Hadari. And the third book is Phenotopia by Danny Dorky and Anika Lujanen. Well, they are three interesting books, and let's go first away with the first book, which is SNAFU. The SNAFU is a detail of standing for the greatest mess ups, and this has been a very famous syllabus that has been used a long time ago, especially in World War II, where they say everything is okay, but everything is bad, and therefore it's really defined by as a chaotic state of a mess. So the book is telling us the stories of mess ups in the United States of America mainly, and things that really have caused great problems. And he takes the book chronologically through the years. So we have the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And he starts right away with the 50s, saying that there was one of the companies, of the toy companies, that was producing different toys, and one of these toys was an atomic lab. And strange enough, this was dedicated for the children so that they become interested in atomic energy. And strange enough that this atomic lab had in its store some material which was actually radioactive. Things didn't get messed up because it was not a popular game. If it were a popular game and the people have opened these closed boxes, things would have changed into a very different problem. He's going also to the 50s, where Jimmy Carter, when he was an officer in the American Navy, was entitled to be doing an important job in the safety of atomic reactors. And there was an accident that happened in an atomic reactor in Canada, where there has to be sort of a very expert team that will deal with this very dangerous situation and to close and shut up the reactor. So Jimmy Carter, as the one who was responsible at that time as a middleman officer, so he was a young officer by the rank of almost like a captain, and he had to do a sort of acting or mimicking what they are going to do exactly inside the reactor, so that they go for a few seconds in to do one step at a time to shut down the reactor and go out before they get over radiated. And everybody thought that Jimmy Carter in this reaction would have definitely passed into a great incidence of irradiation and even sterility afterwards. But strange enough, he was not affected. And from that time on, he became so much interested in stopping the atomic proliferation, and he actually had children after this incident. So, strange enough, he was not affected by this incident. The second important point is that during the Korean War, there was the first division of the Marines under the authority of General MacArthur, who found out that in the Korean War, the Northern Koreans were easily defeated. So he decided to cut the story or cut the war short. So he ordered an amphibian landing on the north towards the Pyongyang and to destroy the whole of Korea. What he didn't calculate is the amount of Chinese army that has been fooled by Soviet Union and swarmed the northern Korea, started attacking his Seoul division. During this attack, the division faced an impossible condition and decided to try to retreat back to the landing ship and to save the lives of most of these Marines. However, at this period of time, when they were sending through the code uh, instructions to send them or to fire, to give them ammunition, they got this wording wrong, and they started sending them a lot of what we call the Tootsie Roll, which is a special type of cake that is very high in calories. And suddenly, the First Marine Division started receiving huge amount of these cakes instead of the ammunition that they wanted. However, these cakes saved very much in saving the lives because it was very high in calorie, easily well kept, and helped very much the soldiers during their withdrawal to be well fed with this huge amount of the Tutsi rolls. So this is another interesting thing that happened in the 50s. Another interesting thing that happened was also the studies that were made by the CIA for the LSD and its effect, and it proved how dangerous it is. And even these experiments were later on condemned not to be really humane to have used. Another incident that happened to one of the aeroplanes, the B 47 bomber, as it was flying a routine training trip, one of its bombs, fortunately, it was not a atomic bomb, has fallen from the plane into a civilian area, and it was a piece of garden of one of the houses in one of the cities in the United States, and the bomb didn't, when it exploded, didn't cause a lot of damage because the amount of mud that was there helped to absorb the friction of the bomb. This is another interesting story. In the 60s, we have seen the use or the trial of the United States of America to build atomic reactors in Greenland and having their own base and having their own storage of rockets and atomic rockets in Greenland. And then later on, it was decided to abort this mission because the land will definitely has a lot of problems geologically that could destroy these reactors and destroy all these buildings in this strange camp that they built. Another thing in the 60s was also another mess up with teaching animals to do espionage. And of course, this is pretty interesting because they decided that they will use, first of all, cats. And cats are totally unpredictable and they never obey their owners, in spite of the fact that they were able to plant on them special audio receptors and microphones, but yet the cats were not trainable. The other point is that they started to say that why don't we use pigeons? And yes, they trained some pigeons so that they go and record some messages, but unfortunately they were attacked by eagles and other other birds at that time. So another point is that this is definitely example of things that happened. Also in concerning President Castro, Fidel Castro, a lot of trials for assassination has been done and all failed. And they say that this trials of assassination was almost in hundreds. The thing also was the pollution of rivers, that one of the pictures was shown to the river on fire because its water has been so much disturbed. And this is one of the rivers called Gyoshka. And this has stirred a lot of interest that there has been governmental interference to clean this river to avoid several incidents like that. In the 70s, in the late 60s, one of the Soviet atomic submarines carrying nukes drowned in a mysterious accident on the Pacific Ocean. And the United States decided to search for it and to salvage this submarine to know the secrets of this submarine. So they made an agreement with the famous Howard Hughes in the early 70s to build a special ship for salvage of this submarine. And it was like a clamp. And this submarine was called Azorian. This ship was called Azorian. And therefore, they stood on top of the site of the thinking of this submarine, and they started inserting their clamps, and really it happened that they were able to pull the submarine upwards. As they were pulling it, the submarine suddenly became divided into three pieces, and only one piece came out with few of the corpses of the deceased Navy seamen of the Soviet Russian Navy members, and the atomic weapons were not in this part that they could salvage. So they arranged for a decent barrier in the sea for these soldiers, and later on sent a video to the Soviets. So some things like happened, and of course one of these things was the Skylab that was sent, and later on proved to be a failure, and later on failed later on in time and disintegrated. In the 80s, we can find the story of the embassy of the USSR and the embassy of the United States, both in Washington and in Moscow, and how the two espionage, the KGB and the CIA, tried to penetrate the embassies as they were built. And later on, the Americans found out that their embassy in Moscow was completely penetrated, so they demolished it and started building a new one. And the Soviets found the same thing again, also in their Washington D.C. Embassy. As we go through histories, we can really find a lot of interesting stories. The ideas of how scandals can happen, and how in the 2000s things can really get messed up. But he decided to write the story of what happened in the Suez Canal when one of the ships led to the obstruction of the way of the Suez Canal and delay all the sailing of the convoys in the Suez Canal back in the 2017, 2018. And however, he has stated, the author, that it was a success story. The Egyptians were able, knowing the secrets of the Suez Canal, how the tide will change on the moon days and nights, and therefore, in the full moon, they were able to dislodge the ship and allow the navy, the convoys, to go safely again. And of course, these are very important stories of a really interesting book that talks about the history of the greatest mess ups, or SNAFU, a really recently published book in the United States in 2025 by Ed Helms. And I suggest that you, if have the time, please read this book. You'll feel very much amused. So after the break, we'll get to another. So you're still listening to The World of Info, and my name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is still at the control, and today is another episode of The World of Books in the World of Info. The second book of today is by Ihab al-Hadari, and it's called The Tales of the Minarets. And he's speaking about the minarets of Cairo, and this is something that is really very interesting. Ihab al-Hadari is trying to take us by our hands to see for ourselves the different mosques and the different minarets, and trying to take it more or less chronologically. The idea of having a minaret for a mosque was to have a high place for which the muezzin would climb in the prayer times and start calling for the prayers in the prayers times 5 times a day. The idea of a high place is that it will make the sound easily propagating, and therefore people will listen for the call for prayers and come to the mosque and pray. One of the earliest minarets of Cairo is, and before Cairo even was built, was Ibn Tulun mosque. He decided to build this beautiful mosque as a congregational mosque in his new capital. Ibn Tulun was one of the great historical characters. He originally was governor sent up by the Abbasid Caliph to rule Egypt. He decided that he is going to claim his own independence, form a city in north of Fustat, and it's called Al-Qata'a, and he became very rich because he became the king of Egypt. His son and later on Khamaraway had his control of Qata'a, and even his daughter Qatr al-Nada. In order to make peace with the Abbasid Caliph, he decided to arrange an arranged marriage between her and the Caliph, and it was a very exuberant marriage. However, Ibn Tulun later on, the son of Ibn Tulun, Khamaraway, and later his grandson, lost the throne, and the Abbasids came back to Egypt. They destroyed all the traces of the Tulunid family except for the mosque. The mosque is a huge mosque which has a beautiful minaret, the same style that Ibn Tulun has seen in Samarra, in what is now called Iraq, the Abbasid city, and he decided to have the steps of the minaret climbing like in the form of a cylindrical structure and following this. So this is really a very interesting mosque. It stays up till now, although it was neglected for some times, but one of the sultans, when he was a Mamluk, and he suffered a lot and placed into jail, and then he escaped in this mosque and was his hiding place, said, if I ever got out of this tragedy, I will refurbish the mosque and return it to its function, which he did, and therefore the mosque has always been resurrected many times in the years. When we talk about the Fatimid dynasties, we'll talk about different mosques that there are. The minarets at that time were, instead of having the Ibn Tulun style, the Fatimid minarets were two square-shaped structures, a bigger square, and then on top of it a smaller square, and then on top of it a censer-like structure. And then you can see that, especially in Badr Gamali Mosque on top of the Muqattam Hill. However, this beautiful mosque is not for visits, but you can visit some of the Fatimid mosques. 3 of them are in Mu'azz al-Din La Street, and 2 inside the Mu'azz al-Din La Street, and 1 off Mu'azz al-Din La Street. You can see Al-Hakim Amr, the great mosque that was really built by his father Aziz Billah, and later on continued by Al-Hakim Amr, one of the greatest and most beautiful mosques that has been refurbished and restored by the Baharas. Another mosque that is near to Al-Hakim Amr is Al-Aqmar, because it has even carry a lot of beautiful engravements, even of the Shiite sector, in front of the walls of the mosque that still exists, but its minaret is a new one built during the Ottoman times, not the original minaret of the Fatimids. And it was built during the reign of Amr MABROUK, the famous Caliph, and his minister Al-Afdal Shahin Shah. There is also a Salah Tala'a, which is also another important structure that we can really talk about forever. So after the break, we'll talk more about the minarets of Cairo. So we are back. We're talking about the very interesting book about the tales of the minarets by Ihab al-Hadari. And yes, we have talked about the Fatimids and their beautiful mosques. The mosque of Salah Tala'a as well is one of the very interesting mosques. But perhaps definitely the most important mosques of Egypt and of Cairo are the ones that were built during the Mamluks' time. The Mamluks, as we have talked about many times before, started their dynasties with Shajarat al-Durr, the wife of Salih Najm al-Din Ayyub, who died during the fight from illness during the fight with the Crusaders, and his soldiers and his Mamluks were able to defend not only Egypt but also to arrest the king Louis IX, and he became a prisoner of war. Shajarat al-Durr became a queen for quite a short time, married one of the Mamluks, Mu'azz al-Din Aybak, and later on after that she killed him because he wanted to take up the whole kingdom for himself. His first wife decided to kill her in revenge, and after that there was Qutuz, who was able to defeat the Mughals as they come, but later on in Ain Galut, but later on he was killed by Zahir Baybars. Zahir Baybars, who ruled Egypt from 1260 to 1277, was also a great builder. He built a very beautiful mosque in the Zahir area north of Cairo, and he built his small mosque and school and mausoleum right beside the mausoleum of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub. And this beautiful mosque, unfortunately, and madrasa, was destroyed during the 19th century as in a trial of cleaning up or widening the street of Al-Mu'izz al-Din Street. After Zahir Baybars died, there were two of his sons, and later on these sons were, one of them was dethroned, and Qalawun, and the other was also dethroned after a very short period on the throne, and Qalawun became the ruler of Egypt. Qalawun was a great builder of himself, and he built the very beautiful complex that we can see in Mu'izz al-Din Street, right in front of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub mausoleum and madrasa. When we look at this beautiful complex of Qalawun, we can see a mausoleum, we can see a school, we can see a sabil and a kitab and a mosque and a place for a khanqa for the Sufis, and the hospital that has been working since 1282 up till today. So it's a great complex. The minaret was destroyed, and his son Nasir Muhammad decided to rebuild it, and he built his beautiful complex right beside the complex of his father, and he decided to be buried next to his father. And Nasir Muhammad was a great builder, and his Mamluks did really had their own say in building structures, like for example Qusun, Sargat Mash and Bushtak, his brother-in-law. All of them were Mamluks of Nasir Muhammad, and all of them had their own fights in between others, and every once in a while after the death of Nasir Muhammad they would enter into fights between each other that ends with some of these Mamluks, like for example Bushtak and Qawsun and Sargat Mash, whether they are put in jail or even killed. When we talk about Sultan Hassan, the son of Nasir Muhammad ibn Qalawun, the great builder of the most beautiful mosque in the world perhaps, and that is the mosque of Sultan Hassan, overlooking in having a look on the citadel. You can always see it from the citadel. The mosques in Cairo have really many stories. We see the Mardani Mosque, we see the Muayyad Sheikh Mosque, and Barqouk Mosque beside Nasir Muhammad ibn Qalawun. And his son Farag decided to build a school and a complex in the northern cemetery in urbanization of the desert, and he's buried his father over there, while Farag himself was not buried there because he was killed in Damascus. Other mosques that we can go on forever talking about is Al-Muayyad Sheikh. Muayyad Sheikh has its two minarets on top of Zuwayla Gate, and in spite of the fact that this was originally a jail, Muayyad Sheikh was put in the jail for some time, and he said if he ever gets out of this jail, he's going to demolish this jail and build a mosque. So actually he did not only just get out of jail, but he became the king of Egypt and Sultan. And Muayyad Sheikh decided to keep his wish, destroyed the jail and built a very beautiful mosque, and put the minarets on top of Zuwayla Gate. The mosque is a beautiful mosque, has its own dome where Muayyad Sheikh is buried, and beside his son. And unfortunately this son of Muayyad Sheikh, Muayyad Sheikh has been accused of killing his son when he felt jealous that his son is taking the admiration from the people as becoming a real young hero and a commander of war. A very sad story. And of course Muayyad Sheikh main gate of the mosque, unfortunately has been taken from the gates of Sultan Hassan Mosque. So Al-Muayyad Sheikh, in spite of having a beautiful mosque, it is not only stolen, but the man even killed his son. The different places that we can see in Cairo, we can go on forever talking about these structures, about the beauty of the mosques, especially the mosques that belong to the late Mamluk. Just to give you an idea of how to understand the minaret structures, we talked about the Fatimid minaret, which has two square, a big square and a rectangle, and on top of it another rectangular, which is narrower, and on top of them is four columns or four pillars. On top of them is a half dome. This is called the sense of style, and this is the Fatimid, and you can see it in Badr al-Gamali. The other minarets are the minarets of the early Mamluks. In the early Mamluks, that's the Bahri Mamluk, we see minarets that are two floors minarets, and they are having a square shape, and these are called the early Mamluks or the Bahri Mamluks, and usually the mosques have huge domes. Then the late Mamluks, late Mamluks have octagonal base minarets and high minarets and smaller domes. While after that, with the Ottomans, when they invaded Egypt, they started their own style of the pencil-like minaret. So in a glimpse, you can see the different sizes and shapes of the minarets. However, in the 19th century, Khedive Tawfiq and his son Abbas Hilmi II were very much interested into the resurrection of the Mamluk style. So they decided to build their new Mamluk mosques at that time. For example, like Sayyida Aisha and the Sultan and the Imam al-Shafi'i mosque, they decided, and Sayyida Zainab, that they will have the style of the late Mamluk, and they call it the Neo Mamluk. It is minarets that have 3 stories, octagonal base, and the domes are high but small domes. You can see that in the Neo Mamluks of the 19th century. But of course, the dome of al-Shafi'i is an old dome that was built by Sultan al-Kamil the Ayyubid. So we can talk forever about mosques, about minarets, but this book is a good introduction, and I really recommend that you should read it. Ihab al-Hadari has written this book, The Tales of the Minarets History, a book that deserves to be read. Stay tuned to us, and we'll come back after the break with another book. So you're still listening to The World of Info, and we're coming from Studio 3. My name is Dr. Amr MABROuk. Dua Muhammad is still at the control, and today is The World of Books. Our third book of today is a very interesting book. It is called Phenotopia, and it is discussing by 2 authors, discussing how should we deal with the fact that Finland is considered to be one of the happiest countries in the world. So what makes people happy in a country? And the second point, what is the definition of happiness? So to answer the second question, which is going to lead us to the first question, is actually why people really are happy, or the question that is a simple question is asked to the citizens of these different countries, asking them, are you happy with your life? Are you satisfied? Are your needs there? Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? Do you feel not worried about the future? And that's why Finland became a very popular country for the fact that it is considered to be the happiest country in the world. But some people would overlook us and say, no, it has one of the highest suicidal percentage. Well, actually, this is not true anymore, because they were number 8. Now they are number 30, because they started doing a lot of psychotherapy to the vulnerable populations, and therefore reduced the incidence of the depression, the severe depression that leads to suicide. The second important point is that the people are not warm, they are suffering, they are not happy, they are in general depressed. This is what people would tell you. But let's talk about what is Finland. Geographically, the country is one of the big countries in the world. It has about almost 5,000 square kilometers, and it is bordered from the east by Russia along all its north. It is bigger than the United Kingdom and Great Britain, and it is on the west there is Norway and Sweden, and on the south there is Estonia. However, the winter for it is long. There is a lot of darkness, but we can say that the sky is always clear, and there are also the northern lights that make the sky more attractive and more being enlightened more or less. And the snow reflects a lot of light, so it doesn't look that dark. So, in spite of the fact that it has a very severe winter, yet the technology has been very highly advanced in Finland from a very long time. So they have a lot of good communication systems, whether this was through wireless or through wires in the early 20th century. Second point is that they have very good road and infrastructure system that is 78,000 kilometers of roads, and they are all open and maintained open with a great technology of ice and snow removal. And then the second important point was how it is giving up a lot of good care for its citizens. Let's talk a bit of history. Finland in the beginning belonged to Denmark from 1397 till 1523. And then it belonged to Sweden from 1523 till 1809. And then it has fallen under the auspice of Russia from 1809 till 1917. And then there was a civil war between the whites and reds for 1 year, 1918, which was bitter, but the whites came out victorious. And Soviet Union or Russia accepted the independence of Finland, and it became an independent state since 1990. In the war, in Russia, invaded it in 1939 and 1940, and later on Germany from 1940 to 1944. Finland became an ally of Germany, Nazi Germany, but later on, before the war ended, it started dismantled this sort of allying, and started fighting against the Germans, and therefore kept the integrity of the country. And the Russians or the Soviets didn't invade Finland, because it's very hard to invade a country like Finland, where the snow is all over, and the mechanical cars and the machines do not work efficiently at in this very very cold weather. So this is how Finland has been formed. But Finnish people are very hard-working people. They refuse to have debts. They have paid their debts for the Soviet Union and for the United States long time ago. And at the same time, they are building their economy on the lumber, on the woods, because it has the highest number of woods. It has the 56,000 lakes and 5 rivers, and they are taking very much care of the environment. So this makes them very special as regards their care and their important looking for the safety of the life of the people. Another important point is that the president does not have the full authority. It's a nominal position. The country is ruled by a prime minister. The prime minister is the chairman of the party that wins the elections of the parliament. They have one chamber in the parliament, and this prime minister has to have a good vote from the parliament before becoming the prime minister. Finland started becoming a really stable country ever since 1952, even, where they were able to form the Olympic Games, the Summer Olympic Games of 1952. And although they don't have petroleum, and they were never been an empire, but it is a very stable country. There has been a lot of investment in the country because of the high-tech investments, and of course the fact that all the population of 5,500,000 people are all highly educated and ready for working in fields of technology. We know, of course, the famous company of Nokia, the mobile phones, and how they have done this. They decided very early on, from the 50s, that care and extra care should be given to the people of Finland. The children should receive extra care. There is no child should never ever feel hungry, and therefore, in spite of the fact that the children go to school at the age of 7, they start going to the kindergarten from the age of 3, and every day there is a good warm meal supplied to the children of schools and of the universities and during the vacation it is distributed into the parks so that nobody would feel hungry. So this is the safety number one. The schools are free, and the teachers are having a master's degree in education, and even the private schools are not that popular because the education is very intact and well established in the local schools. The amount of the social upbringing and the social climbing is very easily maintained because the sky is the limit. If you educate yourself or if you accept the schooling, you can go to the university and have higher education. And of course, the number of people coming from families that have higher education also enroll in the universities. There are very good care of the family. There is paternal leave for men and for women, and there are organized taxation and taking proper care of the old population, and accepting the percentage of immigrants that are needed every year. There are almost 34,000 immigrants, and there is a very important system of integration of the immigrants in the society so that they don't fail and they do not pass into depression. Though Finland is considered to be a good place for retirement, of course, the weather sometimes stops people, so people prefer to go to Spain and to Portugal more than Finland. The number of homeless were 5,000, and later on it has decreased. The number of people in prison are just 2,800. The only problem is the aging population. Birth now rate is 10 per thousand, while originally in the 19th century it was 40 per thousand. So when we talk about how Finland has made the progress, it is through giving everyone in the country a chance. So he will not be worried about his children, not worried about the education of his children or his own education, not worried about food or a place to live, and not worried about a place to work. The country is welcoming all its population as long as they are honest people and dealing with their work. The medical health care is very, very much organized and advanced, so that it is fully computerized, that whenever a person would go to any outpatient clinic, he would find, the physician would easily find his file online just by hooking on with his medical security number. So that's why the country of Finland is considered to be one of the happiest countries in the world. And the psychological problems that Finnish people have started to suffer from, the country is giving in extra care for them, extra treatment and extra management to keep the wordings of having a happy nation, if possible, against all odds. So this was the resume about this interesting book. Today we have presented you 3 books that I believe deserve to be read. First book was SNAFU, which is the history of greatest mess-ups by Ed Holmes. And the second book was the Tales of the Minarets by Ihab El-Hadari. And the third book was Phenotopia by Danny Dorothy and Annika Lujonen. Really 3 interesting books, and we promise that we're going to bring you more from the world of info if you stay tuned always to Radio Cairo. So, by this we come to the end of our program. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad was at the control. We'll see you the same time, same station next week. Stay tuned always to Radio Cairo.